Well, welcome to the Autistic Perspective series. Thanks for being here. We've got folks from all over the world even joining in today, and we're so excited that you're here. I'm T. I'm the executive director and founder of the Autism Support and Advocacy Center. We're an autistic-led organization, and we base our work on disability justice. This series is a way we center and lift autistic voice in the conversation about autism, and hope that you being here provides the opportunity for you to carry that forward in your work and in your families. Today's topic is on being autistic, and we have three really wonderful panelists with us today to share their perspectives. There's so much that could be covered in this topic, and we definitely won't be able to discuss all of it. Our team developed 5 questions that panelists will be answering. And then when we're finished going through those questions that we've all had time to reflect on in advance, we'll open it up for questions from attendees. And yeah, we're going to welcome pauses for processing for those questions or at any time throughout. So, pauses are totally welcome here. We're recording this, and just so that you know that, and you'll get a link for that afterwards that will be live for a few months. You're welcome to share it, take it as you need it. This is a resource for the community. And then after a couple months, it'll become private for our organization. We will have closed captioning on that recording. We are in the process of raising more funds so that we're able to have live closed captioning and ASL interpretation. And we're definitely moving in the direction for all the donations that were able to come in over the last 2 series. So thank you for those who were able to donate. If you are a teacher, I'm going to share my screen, and Durham Public Schools, they have made it so that this will count as credit for you. So I'm going to share the QR code that you need for a few moments to sign in. And at the end, when we're all wrapped up, I'll put up the one for exiting. If you are an MSW, you can get contact hours for being here, and I will make a certificate of attendance and send it out, and you can just use it if you need it at the end. So I'm going to be here in the chat. I'll be monitoring that. I'll be dropping vocabulary, resources, the questions that panelists are addressing. I'll be putting that down there. Please feel free to put your questions, your comments in the chat. Those questions we will keep an eye on, and we can lift those up for you during that question time. And also, last thing I want to make sure that you know, is that Michelle is our facilitator, because I'll be in the chat. I'll be going dark, and Michelle, who's staff at ASAC and has been a previous panelist for us, did the last one on ableism, will be with you throughout the questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and yeah, excited you're here. Thank you.
Thanks, T. First, I wanted to name that we have 3 really awesome panelists today, and to also note that this means that this is 3 autistic perspectives, and there's many more, many different feelings and opinions and experiences. And also want to name that we don't have a non-speaking autistic person today, which is a big thing that we're working on too for this series. So starting with question 1, how does being autistic influence the way you think, understand, and communicate with the world?
Hello.
Yep, we hear you.
For me, autism has impacted me that the way I think, communicate with things it was hard at me at first, but when I was younger, I used to be scared of noises at the scoreboard at basketball games, but I got through it. Yeah.
I have a issue with tone control a lot of the time, and that caused me some issues growing up, not being able to control how I sounded to other people. I still have the issue when I'm in like any sort of emotionally heightened state. I was told a lot that I sounded condescending when I was just trying to be clear. Um, also, when it comes to conversations with other people or talking, uh, I tend to jump to other people into a different topic where to me they're very linked.
Yeah, I think I more recently have understood myself and identified as autistic. So my experience has been a lot of thinking back and understanding why things felt the way they did and how they feel now that I'm able to experience them, knowing that I don't just have to kind of how Rahav said, of just like feeling really uncomfortable and pushing through. I just thought that that's what the experience was of life, that everything just felt like too much, too loud, all of these things too intense, and you just had to kind of brace yourself for it and push yourself through. As I have understood that you don't have to feel like that, and there's things that you can do by having this is a different way that I'm experiencing something, and feeling that I know that when I'm having a conversation or participating in something and I'm fully engaged in it, under feeling how other people are feeling, experiencing all the things that are happening, and really kind of questioning and trying to understand all the very intricate details of those things. It's a very it's a meaningful way that how I want to experience it, but it's also an exhausting way that takes a lot of energy. So as I am growing in my understanding and protecting myself of this is how I'm experiencing, which feels the right way, but also honoring that because I'm participating in such a way that's giving so much of myself, I need to also protect myself, because it's very much easy. It can be a lot to just let it all get sucked out.
Great, thanks for sharing. Raghav, I wanted to ask a follow-up to see if you said you made it through. Do you have any information on what got you? What helped you make it through?
Well, what helped me made it through was about my thing of the scoreboard noise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was younger, like about 5, 6, maybe 7, I used to go to basketball games. I used to be scared of the buzzer of the scoreboard. Then I used to get very frightened. I used to go to a quiet place like that. As a sensory noise sound issue I used to have, but I got through it.
Did you get through it did you get through it by stimming?
No.
No.
My friend told me that it was going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So then over the years, I've grown out of my comfort zone. I've grown out of my scare noise of the scoreboard noise.
So you got support.
Yes, I can do anything I want to. If I put my mind to it, anybody can.
Great. Well, Jenna, did you want to add more?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I kind of was just thinking and reflecting about, specifically thinking about a basketball auditorium. I had played basketball growing up. Was the captain of my high school basketball team, and basketball was a very frequent thing for me to be in. And because I wasn't aware of just like, I did all the things that like you were supposed, like that I felt that I was supposed to be doing in order to do it, but always just felt like I was cringing at all of the things, but not outwardly appearing that way, because it didn't, for me, nothing about it made sense of why this should be too much, because everyone like it. So for my experience and how I don't think I had the connection that it was all the sensory experience and all the things that were going on at that time. I didn't have the connection that was why a big part of feeling so dysregulated and overwhelmed. I was just very much internalizing it all. Coping for me is I had very significant eating disorders that were very much related to basketball season and being in that space, and thinking about now as I like kind of processed how I kind of just understood things, and everything that I had to do felt very much like trying to just make it through of what was happening, because it all wasn't making sense at that time. So I was finding things to kind of feel like I could just manage to get myself through it. And now as I'm understanding it, having a deeper understanding and so much more compassion for that younger person who was just trying to make it through and only had things that were really not taking care of myself at the time.
Well, thank you for sharing. I guess we'll move on to the next question just so we can be sure to get to all of these. And if any of the three of you have anything to add as we go that is related to a former question, that's totally fair. So, how does being autistic impact your basic physical needs, such as sleeping, eating, and hygiene, and what do you do to manage it?
So I have had a lot of trouble learning how to brush my teeth up until later teenage years. And then I learned that toothpaste can come in a flavor that's not just the most strong mint, and that not all toothbrushes have hard bristles. So learning that there was like another option out there to help with my physical sensory needs, like really made it easier for me to just take care of myself, which I always felt so bad for not being able to physically take care of my own body.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So what is the question again? Sorry.
How does being autistic impact your basic physical needs, such as sleeping, eating, and hygiene, and what do you do to manage it?
Well, when I was young, I used to have a big digestion problem. I used to have like acid, like reflux, severe reflux. I used to not digest hamburgers very well, the beef patty. But as I grew up, I got used to it. I love hamburgers now. And then hygiene. I had a severe hygiene. I used to have a problem keeping my nose and my ears kind of clean, but now it's kind of hard for me now, but I'm getting through it. It was challenging for me, but I'm getting through it slowly.
How did you learn how to do those things?
It took a lot of effort. My parents helped me out with that. My mom did. Whenever it was dirty, I used to go to she used to remind me and say, go to the bathroom and clean it. So I did clean it and I was good.
I'm thinking about sleep. I have always had difficulty. I kind of feel like how I regulate is being very awake and doing a lot of things, and then needing something to kind of help me get back, like kind of calm down. But when I feel like to fall asleep, I still need some stimulation. So it's figuring out what is the optimal state of temperature, feeling blankets. I was showing everyone I have the silk on the end of my blanket is something I'm constantly rubbing, and I need that to fall asleep for sure. But I just also do it throughout the day, is needing my fingers to kind of keep moving on it. But I think I also I go to sleep, I think, pretty early comparatively. And I also wake up, but I think I'll also during the nighttime, I wake up a lot. And when I do wake up, it's not a quick process to fall back to sleep. It's kind of figuring out, okay, your thoughts are racing. How can you calm back down? Oh, you're really hot. What can you do and so it feels like to get in those states, it's not like quick fixes. It's like very much needs to be intentional to not feel so my sleep time that I set for myself is, I think, a bigger window to make up for all of the needs for my sleep routine and waking up during the middle of the night.
So really quickly, I also want to mention something about sleep and then go back to what I said before to make it clearer. So I kind of have a slightly opposite problem of being a very late night, my brain will wake up, and I'm like a later person, so my schedule's kind of pushed to a little bit later. I've had the most difficult trouble waking up after being asleep, and that helped over time when I got a service dog because I had to wake up. And I had an actual living being waking me up. Alarm clocks didn't work for me forever. I could literally sleep through the sound of an alarm clock, but a dog just making the slightest noise or movement, I'm awake. But back to the texture and the flavor of the toothpaste, it was so intense that it hurt. It felt like it hurt me, despite the fact that everybody else in my family was using the exact same products. It was such a blast, especially in the morning if I'm very sleepy and I'm having difficulty waking up. It was a difficult texture and sensation to be waking up to. I've since found things that are cinnamon flavored or even just sea salt, where it's not the intense flavor of mint. While I like it when I'm awake, if I'm brushing my teeth or even if I'm going to be eating after it, having mint and then something else that doesn't match with breakfast food, the flavor and texture mixture is extremely unpleasant to me. Which also, I think there's food on that. Certain foods flavors are amazing to me, but the texture makes it makes me unable to eat, even though I like the flavor. What's one of the ones that I really like? Squash. Like sometimes you can make like spaghetti squash into the shape of spaghetti, and it has a different texture. Or sweet potatoes, if they're cut and like baked, fine. If it's just like as it is, the stringiness doesn't feel good.
This actually really is a nice lead into the next question, and you may want to start or continue what you're saying, but what is the connection between autism and sensory experiences for you? For example, texture, sounds, lighting. And anyone's welcome to start. That's what you were just talking about us.
Can I start?
Yes.
So, texture, sound, and lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Like back to what I was saying before, like I used to be scared of the noise of the scoreboard, but I got through it. But my friend told me it's going to be okay. Then I had to go to like a quiet room to make sure I don't hear any noise of the scoreboard, any noise at all at the basketball game, because it was really loud. I really had a problem with loud noises back when I was young, really did. But now I know it's okay. It's okay for me now. I got over it. Now I love going to do games. Go do. Can I have something else
Yes.
about anything, right? I can share anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we have limited time, right?
We do, but you can share.
I was at 4-year program. Well, growing up, I was at a 4-year program. I was like bullied a lot. I was bullied. Sound is not hard for me anymore. I mean, it was when I was young, but texture, food used to be like really hard for me to swallow. Like used to get reflux problems and stuff for me, but not anymore.
Were you saying that you were bullied for having those sensitivities?
When I was in college, I used to be bullied because of my they made fun of me because I had autism.
Mm.
They really bullied me. So that's where I was the most anxious. My anxiety started when I was there in
Mm-hmm.
college.
Can I say something really quick?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So I have a sensory processing disorder that's comorbid with my autism. So light, texture, sound, it can really. So I have a really hard time with extremely bright lights. I also have an astigmatism in both of my eyes, so it can make me almost blind if it's very bright outside. But at the same time, I get light sensitive headaches, and it really changed my relationship with just having light. I have a bunch right now because I want to be able to be seen, but I have the room darkening curtains. Could whoever is listening to this and has their mic open I'm sorry, it's kind of affecting me being able to hear. Thank you. So I have room darkening curtains. I kind of keep a room that's a little bit more cave-like than other people because of that. It helps my just control over my own sensory environment. I have a lot of heavier clothes because I prefer something actually heavy on my body. Constrictive feeling feels better. I have these headphones that I wear almost constantly because they're noise canceling. I can control what I'm listening to. Sometimes I have my phone on so that I can hear it through my phone and I can control the volume of what I'm hearing. I usually have subtitles when I'm watching television because being able to process the actual sound versus reading it, I'm much faster at reading it on a screen than processing it. And having conversations with people too when it comes to processing sound. They could be saying an entire paragraph and I can hear all the words and I know that they're speaking and I will ask them to repeat themselves and then 3 seconds later, before they even finish what they were saying before, I will have processed it because there's a delay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question for her, please?
You can go ahead and ask.
Like how like why was it hard for you? Like, how did you overcome that sensory issue?
So instead of overcoming, I figured out ways to manage my own sensory perception. I also wear contacts, so when I do that and I have to go outside, I can wear sunglasses. And I'm sometimes one of those people who wears sunglasses indoors because the light is so bright in certain stores. I have headphones. I have a service dog that helps me manage my sensory by doing deep pressure therapy in places. I have stim toys everywhere. Like right now I have this one. I got this one. I dropped one earlier that's for chewing. I do a bunch of self-stimulatory behavior, despite the fact that I was diagnosed later, at a later teen. So I learned to, instead of trying to push through like Jenna was talking about, to just let myself do what I need to do in order to continue. Instead of trying to push down the feeling, just let myself regulate how I'm supposed to regulate.
Good question and answer.
I want to just note that I'm hearing everybody on the panel say things like I had overcome, pushed down, got through. You know, these are things that, and I'm connecting this to our previous conversation around ableism, because these are things that as autistic people, they're things that we have to change about how we take in the world, and things that we have to do that are different than other people to be able to manage the world that has not been built for us. And Raghav, I'm hearing in what you were saying, I'm making a connection perhaps, and you can validate if it's true, but sometimes because of those regulatory things we had to have, we looked different to other people, and as a result we were bullied. And I just really appreciate you naming that, Raghav, and for everyone, Jenna and Az, for y'all to share those experiences, to be able to say what the insides of us are feeling like alongside. Yeah, go ahead, Raghav.
Well, no matter who you are, you should be proud for who you are, and I'm proud for who I am. I'm proud of that, of my autism. That doesn't stop me for anything that I can accomplish. I can do anything the way I put my mind to.
100. We want everyone else to know that too.
Everyone else, you got this. Put your mind forward and you can accomplish anything you want to. It didn't have because this is what you have. That shouldn't stop you from doing what your dreams you have, what dreams you can accomplish. Whether if it's on the spectrum, whether if it's Down syndrome, whether if it's anything, you should not let your dreams stop you.
Jenna, did you want to add to this question?
Yeah, I really appreciate what you just said. I think I was thinking specifically from my experience, I'm professionally an occupational therapist. I'm a parent of autistic kids, so I think so much of just, besides being an autistic person myself, a lot of just how I'm thinking about the world and viewing things is thinking through a sensory experience lens of what is happening and how does this, how does it feel for people? I think more recently, and as T just said, more because of internalized ableism and feeling like I just wasn't able, or for me, it felt for me, I wasn't allowed to, feeling uncomfortable or feeling the painfulness of some sensory experiences. I think now understanding and being able, and it's kind of like a surreal experience for me as an occupational therapist, much so is helping to support other people's feels kind of very humbling for me, as that I'm like more recently starting to connect my discomfort that I've very much pushed or not allowed myself to feel like this doesn't feel good to me and I don't have to do this. It just felt like this is what is happening, and to be part of this, you need to get in it, and then whatever you need to do later to break down, and it has been a very tough on my own body and self to live that way. So as I've now started to realize things that don't feel not right for me, I think so much has been really like mindfulness in situations, which it feels that like clothing or temperature or things that I wouldn't have even processed that was the reason why I didn't feel right. It just gave me that baseline of, you don't feel good, but just keep going because that's what you need to do. And now I have the ability to say, oh, this is what doesn't feel good, and how can I ask to change this so that I can participate in a way that isn't painful, or that I can actually communicate in this situation because it's not so aversive to me, just being here with this going on.
Thanks, y'all. I think that we also went a little bit into number 4 already. But I'm going to ask again, and this one has multiple questions, but it's all part of one question. So, how do you self-regulate? How do you experience and manage autistic burnout? And what do you do to help yourself when you feel stressed, anxious, or frustrated?
Can I go?
Yes.
So how I manage my autistic burnout is when I get stressed, anxious, or frustrated, is I count to 10, I go for a walk, I talk it out with my parents. I also have this stress ball also, which calms me down also. And also I have my pen cap over here that also calms me down, that relieves any stress and anxiety I might have. So that's what I use to calm my stress and my autistic burnout.
For me, I try to incorporate a lot of movement into my well, first having a routine is very important, and I kind of view, I have just like my picture of my color coordinated Google Calendar that just pops up to just like remember, and kind of putting making sure that there's not too much of green or too much of purple, and I have spaces of just clear that I know that I have. So I do that first thing in the morning, just to kind of just like set myself up, and knowing, like checking in, like, do you have too much on today? And when it starts feeling like the buildup is happening and I've been pushing too many things and I haven't been, that I've had these patterns of not honoring what my body is trying to tell me, and going past that. And now that I'm starting to really understand what these signals in my body are telling me, which I did not understand for a very long time, really saying and being able to either communicate, advocate for myself, like, I'm not going to be able to make this meeting, I'm going to have my camera turned off. Really, I think the biggest thing is prioritizing how to just honor when I need to take breaks, and that has felt like something that I wasn't able to do. So I think really having a lot more frequent language for myself, and also spaces that I'm in, of trying to create that as more of a just like, how are you feeling right now? Like, does this feel like too much? And I think it feels so much better for me when I'm with people that also honor that and communicate that way, that it just feels like a much less intimidating way of feeling like I need to muster all of this bravery to advocate that I need a break, rather than just kind of feeling like it's okay to just keep checking in and saying, you know what, this is enough for today, we'll check in again next time. So I'm kind of away from what the question was, I think, but I think really honoring what I'm feeling and needing to take breaks as my body is telling me I need to.
Jenna, I don't think you were getting off the topic of the question. I think it like really hit, and to build off of what you said about like honoring how you're feeling, I think that a lot of what I do, I mean, like I have this bookshelf that's basically for me like a wall of special interests. So if I'm feeling like down, and I can go to my room, which is where I am right now, and just like pick something off of that wall, just look at it and be like, well, this is what I feel like doing today. Do I feel like reading? Do I feel like playing a game? Do I feel like just like touching something that has really good memories for me? Or just like coming back to yourself, and like letting the world continue to do what it's doing, but just like coming back to who you are, and just letting yourself rest, and realizing that that's not like a selfish thing to do, because I mean, a lot of us have dealt with the world trying to change how we communicate or how we think, because we're not thinking the right way when it comes to a neurotypical or allistic society. So just like reminding yourself that you can just be as you are, and making a space for that, I think is really important.
Great. All right, we're coming to our last question, but we're getting lots of questions in the chat, so we'll try to get to some of those after this. This might be a big one though. What would make the world more accessible to you? What could other people do to make you feel included?
Well, they can include me in activities, like they can come and talk to me even more and at parties, and they can have an autism association program, like where they just get together and have fun. How accessible to me is like they can come and talk to me, have a conversation with me.
I'm gonna piggyback off of Raya because I have notes. And like what I think that would make the world accessible in a whole, when it comes to the social model of disability as it pertains to autism, is the deconstruction of what is like weird, because that already creates like an other from like what is the normal, um, in a societal way. Um, it kind of creates like a one-way street, which is what I was mentioning really quickly before, between allistics and autistics. That creates like the need for behavioral modification and encourages masking of autistic people, um, instead of widening the accepted communication styles that autistics have. Like, there's even now people realizing that like love languages, there are autistic love languages like parallel play or like other ones, because parallel play is the one that I do. That's the one that I remember. If anybody else like remembers any of those other ones, it would be great to mention.
You know, so they can also like they should talk to me even more. Like they shouldn't have been mean to me and stuff. Like excluding me. I don't like excluding people who include me.
Yeah, and I got excited when you mentioned the love languages. And I think as Rahav is, I think including in a way that feels welcoming and including that you don't have to change who you are to be included or to be welcome into the
You should
space.
be proud for who you are.
Right.
You should be proud for who you shouldn't make that what you're not. You should be proud for who you have autism. They should be proud people. They shouldn't put themselves, they should be proud for who they are.
Right. And I think sharing and feeling like that you are included in a space that honors autistic experience and some of the love languages, I think we were thinking about, as Rael mentioned, was it special? No, it can't, but info dumping is what parallel play. Info dumping, support swapping, feeling like that you are just, when someone is needing something and you have that ability to support them, and someone else is needing something and you have the ability to support that person. It feels, all of those things feel very much what I understand in my experience as an autistic person to be, that it feels that the living and being here, it feels like having this purpose is for so much of it is really deep connections and understanding things and connecting with people on a really true and authentic level. And I think when you're in a space that values and shares that, that feels like a space where autistic people can feel comfortable, and it feels meaningful to give all of this because you're getting so much from it as well.
And Ms.
And
Jenna,
yes, yeah.
People should be like, people shouldn't judge other people for what, if they have autism, shouldn't judge. Judging is wrong. I don't get it. Why do people judge? They should be proud for who they judge. They should be proud for who they are. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
That's I feel that's very sad, isn't it?
I think so. It's taken me a while, but I feel like I'm proud of who I am today, and I'm understanding who I am, and I hope that everyone's able to share that same feeling that you have, Rahav, because I feel like that is what just feels like how we're able to experience and show and grow with other people is feeling that what you have and what you are is enough, and everyone respects that same thing for everyone.
I'm proud for who I am. That doesn't stop me for what I can accomplish. Like, I'm living independently in my own apartment right now. Yes, that doesn't stop for who I am, stop me from what I can accomplish for who I am.
Well, this seems like a great positive note to end our predetermined questions on. We're getting lots of questions in the chat. We probably won't have time to address all of them, but wanted to bring a couple up and just let everyone sit with those. Think about if you want to answer it. I know we got one about clothing sensitivity. And Azrael, you had brought that up a little bit, like wearing heavy clothes, but I don't know if anyone wanted to add to that.
This is more, I think, of a, well, I've been more frequently talking about, as a parent, I think I also, having a child that really does not want to wear a coat, and that has really given a lot of language and conversations around why do we need to wear coats, why do people, and how do you, what are clothes and what is the purpose of them, and so much of this is based on, especially for children, sorry, I'm going into a lot of things, let me go back to where I was going. Okay, so wearing a coat and wearing different layers can feel very different. So one thing that I always do for myself to start the day, especially like in the winter, I like to go outside and wear like just a sweatshirt, be really cold, and it helps my brain like wake up. And I go for my walk with the dog, and I get a lot of smells, I get a lot of things, and it really just helps me like get enough input. And I go on the same exact walk every day, so I have the same routine, but all the things that help me. Wearing a coat when I have to do that feels, wearing 2 layers on top of something changes that whole experience. When I have to have sweat dripping down my back, that changes. Then I'm only thinking about how sweaty this is, but I don't want to carry it. I think there's a lot of things with clothes that clothes can feel one way in one environment, but when you know you're going to go inside and outside, it's going to feel different, and it might not just be worth having all those changes. And then knowing that if you have also difficulties with executive functioning, or figuring out how to carry and manipulate all these things, extra layers. So I think, sorry, I've been thinking about clothes for a while now. There's a lot of, I think, nuanced things that I think have to deal. So a lot of times myself and my family, we have only a pretty similar outfits that we wear every day, and we know this is what feels good when it's this temperature-ish, and this is what feels good when it's this temperature-ish, and we don't do that much deviation from those specific clothings because it doesn't feel worth the possibilities of other things happening.
When it comes to sensory and clothes, because I think part of that question may be talking about like the literal feeling of the textures. As somebody who for a long time was going to school to be a fashion designer, I had the ability to touch and feel a lot of fabrics to figure out exactly what I like tactily. But I know that a lot of other autistics don't just like walk into a fabric store and like get to know what a fabric content itself feels like to them. So eventually they like we gravitate towards what's a lot more familiar when it comes to like brands, because they don't usually change. And if they do, it can be extremely difficult to try and find something that fits that same niche, because like I really like wearing tightly knit clothing because it's like just a little bit stretchy. It has like breathability, but sometimes like a brand will come out with like a new shirt, and it's a woven and it doesn't feel the same, so it can't like replace maybe something that's being worn out in my closet because they no longer carry that. So sometimes you buy maybe like two of the same shirt that you really like while it's still out, or you you just have to find something new, which is really difficult as somebody who relies maybe on a piece of clothing as a comfort object.
Another question related somewhat to sensory input was if do you think that people can grow out of sensitivity to sound? Or maybe like how does it change over time?
I think they can grow out of sensitivity sound. Yeah. I think they can grow out of sensitivity sound. Like if they try really hard, they can grow out of sensitivity sound.
I think it depends on the person. I think that like as you grow and mature, your brain's gonna change up to a certain point, and that's the difference of like how you're receiving the information. But it's like if you've ever done that experiment when you were much younger and you play like a high-pitched tone in a classroom and the teacher can't hear it because they're older, but the other students can hear it. But sometimes it just like it could just be one of those things that you're going to have a struggle with forever. Like me, like I will always have an issue with the need to control my own sensory environment because it can ramp up my discomfort so quickly. Like I can still be in a room where there's like a bunch of people. I've gone to like big anime conventions where there's a bunch of people, but I always tend to find that place that's further away for a certain period of time for me to cool down from the sensory environment. It's just about like balancing. It's balancing your own, like if you really like something, you're going to put yourself through maybe an experience or you get used to that specific stimulus and it becomes no longer a specific issue. But I don't think it's necessarily something that you grow out of. It's just something that you learn to acclimate to.
Did you want to add to that, Raghav?
Yeah, it depends on the person. It depends on the person of to come to sensitivity. Like for me, like when I was young, I used to be like people like used to touch me. People I didn't feel comfortable who I didn't know they used to like, give me a pat on the back. Then I felt a little uncomfortable about that. Then I used to like run away from that. And then, but now I know that it means like back to what you were saying earlier. It means like it sounds of love, sign of love, love language.
How's the panelists feeling? Do you want another question? We have a couple more questions if you are wanting to keep trying to answer.
Yeah.
Let's see. So there's a question about how can parents talk to their children about autism?
Well, my parents talk to me about autism is that like they talk to me calmly. They know that everything's going to be okay. Like they tell me whenever I'm getting stressed and anxious, they tell me to go take a 5-minute break to get myself together and to recollect my thoughts. Yeah.
I think definitely like an open conversation is like best. Where you're, because depending on the age of the child, they're not gonna always understand. But being able to give them the words to help you understand what they're dealing with is probably the best when they're younger. Because like if they're like even if they just say like it's sharp, it may not literally mean it's sharp. But if you give them like a word like I don't like it, or even just that, it just helps create like a vocabulary for a child to be able to um, access what they're actually feeling, because it's difficult being young and not having your own sensory experience mirrored back to you in certain situations. And then also, it can become really difficult when I'm in a sensory overwhelm. I have a difficulty speaking, so even just like having a little board for your kid that says like they could just say that they need a couple minutes or that they need you next to them.
Like,
Depending on what a kid needs, you can work with them because each autistic person is an individual.
like should like be, they should like have a conversation. Like they should talk to them. They should like sit down and talk to them. Let them know that it's okay for who you are to have autism. That doesn't change who you are.
And I guess when I heard this question too, I was thinking about it in a few different ways, wondering if the person asking was thinking about telling their own child of their autistic diagnosis, or if explaining just to allistic and autistic children just about what autistic experience and what autism is. And that's kind of, I think now where I'm thinking my answer is going, is just really, I think that as we have that, as for this panel, as so much autistic advocacy is supporting that autistic people are asking for not all the work to be for autistic people needing to advocate. It's that our spaces are being more open and more understanding and more accommodating and understanding of what different needs and different experiences are. So I would encourage that any adult or caregiver or parent is having conversations about autism and autistic experience, not just with an autistic child or a sibling of an autistic child, with all children, that we're understanding that there's autistic people in spaces all the time, and how are we showing up in those spaces to be sure that everyone feels like they have space to participate in whatever way feels right for them.
Lots of answers there and different perspectives on it too. So hopefully we got to the person's question. I'm not sure how it was being asked either. This one, so we have a question about relationships, and I know that we'll have a whole topic about this at some point as one of the topics in the series. But one question is how if you would like to live with a significant other or have a relationship, or how that would look.
So as things stand right now, I have a significant other who's also autistic, who's a lot more of like a close need next to touch person, and I have sensory issues sometimes, and they respect it quite constantly. And we have talks about like what it would be like to live together, and I personally would like a situation of separate rooms. One, for being able to create my own sensory space. And two, like if I need to have physical space. But room sharing itself wouldn't be off the table. It's just, I think that it would be a lot more practical when it comes to like, we like different things, we like different decor, and being able to control our own retreats is probably a really good idea for the two of us.
But what relationships? Well, if I would to live with somebody, I wanted somebody who's going to be trustworthy, who respects me for who I am, and like, because in the past, I had this problem because where it's like somebody in college about a few years ago, a person used to come into my room, sleep in my bed, and I didn't even like that. I wish they could. I want them to knock before they enter my room, and that was not okay. I did not like that at all. I hated that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done, Rob? I'm sorry.
I hated that when people came into this person came into my room and he just busted in and he just slept in my bed and I was on the ground. I did not like that at all. So I want my own private space where nobody would come in. And before they enter, I want them to knock first.
Yeah. With all relationships, trust and respect being the most important things. Yeah.
Respect. I want them to, they should have respected me for who I was. Respected, not disrespected. That was disrespect. That was really disrespect. I did not like that at all. They mocked me for who I was.
Yeah. I've had experiences with relationships that I wasn't respected, and it doesn't feel good. And I'm sorry you've had that experience.
Okay.
For me personally now, my partner is also autistic and our children are neurodivergent. So definitely having a home and having relationships as a caregiver and as a partner with also neurodivergent autistic people is something that I'm very interested in understanding and growing in that area, because I feel like understanding and supporting your own sensory space and needs, but then also when you're sharing those spaces with other neurodivergent people who have possibly the opposite needs or different need, or it's very tricky. And I think having separate rooms, I'm in my own shed now, which has been very helpful for me to have my own space in my house. But yeah, I think having a partner who is also autistic has been, we have definitely, all of the love languages are things that we do. I think support swapping feels something that I didn't, before I learned that term, I just kind of said words that meant it, but that feels so strong of like how our relationship and other relationships I have with other autistic or neurodivergent people work, is that finding someone who has the same intense care and want for something, but then also having kind of mismatch needs and abilities, and just kind of not seamlessly, but very just kind of checking in if you can support them and they can support you, and it feels like a very it just kind of feels like a natural way that when I am in spaces with neurodivergent people, that when we're working, it just kind of happens, and it feels very much, I don't know if you all have had that experience too, but it feels for me in my partnership relationship, but also in friendship relationships, and it feels a different experience that feels very much safer and more supportive, and I feel like I'm able to participate in the best way I can, and I hope that the person I'm with is also able and feeling supported by the same type of mutual aid that we're giving each other.
Thank you all for answering all these questions, the extra ones that we didn't get a chance to think about beforehand. I think that's all the questions that we have. Don't know if there's anything that anyone wants to add just as a closing. I know I definitely heard throughout that each autistic person is an individual and we're all different. So along with that, all of these answers to the questions could be different if we had the same conversation another day with different people. Someone asked to explain support swapping.
I should have had my link ready. So support swapping, I don't know if T or Michelle, if you're able to find that love languages, it has like a better definition that might be helpful. So support swapping is basically when, so I can give maybe more of a clear example of myself. I have a brain that when there's new directions or something, like there's a lot of words that are something that isn't easy for, get very overwhelmed and have a hard time. So what I typically do is just hand the laptop to my partner, and they know what that means. Like, I'm overwhelmed by this. Can you fix it and read it and do something else? And then interpreting kind of nuanced social, especially through email, is very difficult for them. So a lot of times they'll hand me their laptop and I read the email or whatever it is and kind of try to give a little bit of insight of what's happening, because I feel like that's something that I've spent a lot of time and constantly is just analyzing, what are people feeling, how is this working, why is that word there, and that is something that feels like way too much for them to do, and my thing that I have a difficulty with feels like way too much that I can do, but we both can support each other by these things that are difficult for each other by just handing each other's laptops. I hope that makes sense.
I just shared the neurodivergent love languages in there, which will give more information on what Jenna was just sharing too.
Well, I really thank everyone for being here. Thank you, panelists, for putting in all of that expertise, time, effort to share today. Extremely valuable to have these stories centered and shared. So I hope today's conversation was meaningful to you, and that I hope that it sits with you and informs the way that you think about autism moving forward. I know that even just listening here, I feel like I even learned more about myself hearing everybody share what they were saying about themselves. I'm going to put up the QR code for teachers to check out with. Give me a second to do that. There you go. I'll leave that up for a few moments. Yeah, but thanks again. We'll be doing this almost every month. We have 6 more left for the year. Our next one, they're always on Wednesdays in the lunch hour. Our next topic, I believe, is sex and sexuality, but I could be wrong, but check our website.
I think it's gender.
It's gender. Okay,
Yeah.
gender, then race, then sex and sexuality, and then I can't remember the schedule after that. But I usually put the registration up about 2 weeks in advance, a week and a half in advance, and then I close it the night before. So check back, and again, you'll get an email in a couple days after I've been able to get the video fully rendered and linked with closed captioning. And you're welcome to share that around, and we'll keep it live for a few months so that everybody that you want to share it with has time to see it too. Thank you again, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone.
I mean, awesome.